Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Welcome back to this YouTube channel on narcissism and narcissistic relationships and our What Is and What Isn't series. And today we're going to take on what is and what isn't breadcrumbing. So let's take that one on because some of you may not even know what it is, but it's really important to know what it isn't. So let's talk about what is breadcrumbing because it's such a classical dynamic in a narcissistic relationship. Breadcrumbing is the slow withholding of love, recognition, and acknowledgement that really is a pattern we tend to see in the devalue and discard phases of the narcissistic relationship. And that whole pattern of just sort of getting less and less and less is something called breadcrumbing. Basically, the person who's in the narcissistic relationship could be for any number of reasons, for reasons of trauma bonding, cognitive dissonance, confusion. They'll remain in a narcissistic relationship. The days of love bombing are long gone, and the person in the relationship finds themselves learning to make do in the relationship with less and less, basically learning to nourish themselves on the paltry emotional breadcrumbs that you're now getting. Now, breadcrumbing happens gradually. It may be that within the relationship you're getting less time, and when you bring it up, you may be painted as selfish for wanting more time, or gaslighted and being told that there's no difference in time, or you're too needy. There are fewer kind gestures in the relationship, less time spent together, less physical affection of even the most basic type, not even holding hands or a peck on the cheek when they leave the house. It may be less interest, less conversation, less awareness of what you are doing. In essence, it's almost like a divestiture from the relationship emotionally. A person who's being breadcrumbed may actually be shocked when their partner shows up for dinner on time, or you actually get to watch some TV together. Like even such a small, ordinary thing is like, oh my gosh, this is great. Now, another process also happens as part of breadcrumbing. You can think of it as a form of starvation. If you are learning to survive on only breadcrumbs, every so often when a full meal comes your way, you eat it with immense gratitude and gobble it up, but also have some fear about when your next meal is going to come along. So the person being breadcrumbed may find themselves being overly grateful, excited, happy when something decent rolls up. The narcissistic person may do something like actually remembers to bring home the groceries to make their dinner, or they actually remember your birthday, or they ask you how your day is. This is sort of baseline starter kit stuff in any relationship. But in a breadcrumbed relationship, that becomes almost like an exciting red letter day. And the person who's being breadcrumbed actually runs the risk of that day when the person actually remembers to bring home the eggs as reflective of, look, this relationship is normal and good and healthy. And then inevitably, the hardcore breadcrumbing happens again, and there's no emotion, nothing in the relationship. Now, this isn't the same as the good day, bad day cycles of narcissistic relationships. Breadcrumbing is really about getting so little that even a tiny gesture, like a person, I don't know, actually remembering to lock a door, feels like a week in Hawaii. Now, breadcrumbing sets an unhealthy precedent in narcissistic relationships, and the emotional and psychological poverty that the relationship becomes, devoid of any kindness, solicitousness, attention, warmth, or empathy, but just enough crumbs in there that you don't completely starve or leave. Now that's what breadcrumbing is. Like I said, I know some of you know the term, not everyone does, but that's what it is. The question is, what isn't breadcrumbing? Now, breadcrumbing isn't when you're in a relationship and life starts becoming more normal in the relationship, like in the early period of a relationship. Listen, even in normal relationships that may not have a love-bombed origin, after the initial weeks or months in any new relationship, I don't know, life sort of hits a more normal cadence, whether it's stuff around your work or friends, families, other responsibilities. You can't just give yourself over to dinners out and picnics on the beach or vacations or lying in bed till late all the time. So like I said, it may mean that you no longer have that long, languorous lie-in on a Saturday morning or sort of an elaborate scavenger hunt date. but rather that now the relationship is that you may eat dinner at home, watch shows together, run errands on a weekend, but there is still connection and kindness and communication and feeling as though you are in something with another person. So in that way, life just becoming more normal in a relationship, it's not as exciting as those early dates. That's not breadcrumbing, assuming that all of that other healthy stuff is there. Breadcrumbing is also not people being genuinely busy or occupied, I don't know, with work or other responsibilities. But when the person does show up, they're very present when they do show up. Let's face it, these days for many people, life is busy as hell. Demanding jobs, having more than one job, caregiving responsibility, life crises, all that stuff. And that stuff takes time. And it may mean that a person isn't making a candlelit dinner, but there's still a good faith effort, even if they come home late, to make the most of the time that you do have. For example, you actually do make a point of having dinner together on the nights that both of you are home, or you reach out by phone to text or check in during the day. So that, like people genuinely being busy, but still bringing their A game with what little time they have, that's also not breadcrumbing. Finally, breadcrumbing is also not changes we'd see in someone's behavior due to real economic shifts. For example, they may not spend as much money on stuff or gifts or experiences. It may be that at one point in the relationship, you did eat out more often or maybe shared more elaborate gifts or took vacations or went to concerts and stuff, but maybe life happened or jobs were lost and economic shifts happened. And so people may need to work more, not have as much money, get by with less stuff, but that doesn't have to translate into less awareness of another person. It may be that kind of a cheaper dinner is at home, vacations may be local or a day away, but if the communication and the awareness are still there, just because you're spending less money on each other, or one person spending less on the other, whatever, that's not breadcrumbing. Now, breadcrumbing isn't limited to just romantic or intimate relationships, though that is typically most often where we see it, since these are relationships that have a pretty clear beginning, right? And the breadcrumbing becomes a clear shift away from what the beginning of a dating or romantic relationship was like. We may see breadcrumbing in family relationships. So for example, you'll see there's less and less awareness or recognition from family members, although they may anticipate that you'll still do things for them. They don't pay a lick of attention to you. You may experience breadcrumbing in an employment setting. Initially, they may have hustled hard to recruit you, but now you can't even get them to give you post-its. It could even happen in a friendship. No matter what, breadcrumbing is an awful dynamic that we often see in narcissistic relationships. And it's one that can leave people ruminating about the good old days of love bombing and attention. It can leave people feeling like they're not enough, feeling guilty for asking for more time, and can be a throwback to a childhood with narcissistic parents who were rarely present or aware of you or did very little with or for you. However, keep this in mind. If you're in a relationship with a person and they're showing up, they're present, they're communicative, they're kind, and they do their best to engage in the reciprocal, mutual back and forth that is a relationship, then it may be that it isn't the early days of late nights or getting lots of attention in a relationship. But if there's still a there, and you still feel seen, cherished, and valued, then that is most likely not breadcrumbing. Hope that helps. And in a healthy relationship, you never feel like you're starving. You typically feel, I'd say always feel, like you're full. Thanks again.